Could your mind be quantumly entangled with another person? This question might seem like something out of a science fiction movie, but what if I told you there's a real, measurable, and scientifically fascinating probability that you are connected to someone right now through a phenomenon that transcends the conventional laws of space and time? Have you ever felt that strange sensation of thinking about someone and seconds later receiving a message from them? Or that inexplicable tightness in your chest that you later discovered coincided with the exact moment a loved one went through a difficult situation? What most people dismiss as coincidence might be the purest and most observable manifestation of one of the most mysterious and proven phenomena in quantum physics operating directly in your life. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you revolutionary scientific discoveries and ancient wisdom that converge on a single, transformative truth. Your mind is not an isolated island floating in a void, but rather part of an invisible, pulsating network of consciousness that connects you to other people in ways that completely defy our linear understanding of reality. If you're ready to consciously access this power of connection that already pulses within you, take a deep breath now and prepare for a journey that could forever change your perception of relationships, intuition, and the very meaning of being alive. And before we continue, hit the like button now if you've ever felt this inexplicable connection with someone. Quantum entanglement is no longer theory. It's a fact proven in laboratories thousands of times. When two particles become entangled, they remain connected regardless of the distance separating them, and any change in one instantly affects the other, even if they are in different galaxies. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance because it challenged everything he believed about reality. But researchers at the University of Oxford demonstrated in 2010 that quantum coherence doesn't just happen in isolated particles in a lab. It occurs in nature, in plants during photosynthesis, suggesting that biological life might be operating on quantum principles much more than we imagined. Even more impressively, studies conducted at Princeton by Hassan and his team in 2012 mapped the neural synchrony between people conversing and discovered that brains literally synchronize, creating identical brainwave patterns during deep communication. This isn't mysticism, it's cutting-edge neuroscience showing that our minds align in measurable ways when we are truly connected. And what have spiritual traditions always known? In Hinduism, the concept of Brahman teaches that all individual consciousness is merely a temporary expression of a single, universal consciousness. Buddhism, through the principle of interdependence taught by masters like Thich Nhat Hanh, reveals that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is intrinsically linked in a web of relationships that transcends our ordinary perception. Imagine now that each human mind is like a unique, multifaceted crystal floating in a vast ocean of vibrant light. These crystals are not isolated, but connected by filaments of subtle energy, like invisible rays of light extending from one facet to another, from one crystal to another through this luminous ocean. When you think intensely about someone, when you feel a deep emotion, you are making your crystal vibrate, and that vibration instantly propagates through the light filaments to the crystals with which you are entangled. This is the perfect metaphor for understanding how quantum spiritual entanglement works between minds. You are not a solitary crystal trying to shine alone in the darkness. You are part of a symphony of light, where your every vibration resonates in other crystals, especially in those with whom you have developed deeper connections throughout your life. The illusion of mental separation. You wake up in the morning and immediately feel that you are alone with your thoughts, locked inside your head, separated from everyone around you by an insurmountable barrier of skin and bone. This feeling of mental isolation is so convincing that you don't even question its validity. But think for a moment about that time you were driving and suddenly, for no apparent reason, thought of calling your mom, only to discover that she was at that exact moment needing to talk to you about something important, or when you woke up in the middle of the night with a strange feeling and found out the next day that your best friend had gone through a crisis at that time. Is your mind really as isolated as you believe? Neuroscience is discovering that the brain not only processes local information, but also seems to pick up non-local signals that cannot be explained by the 5 conventional senses. When you feel that you are alone in your mind, you are actually denying a natural capacity for connection that constantly pulses through you. It's like having a perfectly functional radio antenna, but insisting there's no signal in the air. The mental solitude that so afflicts us in modern society is not a natural condition. It is an artificial disconnection from our true entangled nature. Every time you ignore an intuition about someone, every time you dismiss a synchronicity as mere coincidence, you are reinforcing the illusory walls that separate your mental crystal from other crystals in the ocean of light. But what if you started paying attention? What if you started trusting these subtle connections? Take a deep breath now and feel how even at this moment, reading these words, you are not alone. You are connected to an invisible network of consciousness that includes not only who wrote this, but everyone who is experiencing this same revelation. Comment now with a word that describes what you are feeling at this moment. The weight of unexpressed emotions. How many times have you felt a sudden sadness without apparent explanation, an anxiety that arises from nowhere, an inexplicable joy that invades your chest for no obvious reason? Traditional psychology tries to explain all this as chemical fluctuations in your individual brain, but what if part of these emotions were not originally yours? Think about that occasion when you were perfectly fine and suddenly felt a deep melancholy, only to discover later that someone important to you was going through a difficult time at that exact instant, or when you woke up with a feeling of euphoria for no reason and then learned that something wonderful had happened to someone you love. Your mental crystal not only transmits its own vibrations through the light filaments, it also constantly receives the vibrations from the other crystals to which it is connected. When you don't recognize this, you end up carrying the emotional weight of misunderstood connections, trying to process as your own emotions that are actually echoes of quantum entanglements with other minds. This is why sometimes you feel exhausted without having done anything physically tiring. This is why certain environments or people drain your energy even without direct interaction. You are constantly in an energetic emotional dialogue with the minds entangled with yours, but without awareness of this, you cannot filter, direct, or transform these exchanges. Imagine how much lighter your emotional life would be if you could identify which emotions are truly yours and which are resonances of your quantum connections. Imagine being able to consciously send waves of peace and love through these invisible filaments, not only alleviating your own emotional state, but also raising the frequency of those with whom you are connected. Close your eyes for a moment and visualize all the light filaments that connect your mental crystal to others. See how some shine intensely, representing strong and healthy connections, while others appear opaque or tangled. With your intention, you can begin to clear and strengthen these filaments right now. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel to continue exploring these deep connections. Synchronicities wasted as mere chance. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and that person appears on the street the next day. You're struggling with an important decision, and a stranger at the coffee shop mentions exactly the phrase you needed to hear. You dream of a specific symbol, and it appears 3 times in your day in completely different contexts. The rational mind quickly dismisses all this as coincidence, as the brain seeking patterns where none exist. But what if each of these synchronicities was actually a direct communication through the quantum field of consciousness? When Carl Jung developed the concept of synchronicity, he was trying to explain exactly these moments when the universe seems to conspire to send a message. But Jung didn't have access to modern quantum physics, which now shows us how entangled particles communicate instantly, how observation collapses probability waves into concrete reality. Every synchronicity in your life is a moment when the light filaments between mental crystals illuminate with such intensity that the message passes through the veil of physical reality and manifests in your direct experience. When you ignore these synchronicities, you are literally rejecting communications from the quantum spiritual field. Messages that could guide you to your highest path, connect you with the right people, open doors that seemed closed. Think about how many opportunities you may have missed simply by dismissing synchronicities as chance. How many times has the universe tried to guide you through these entangled connections and you didn't pay attention? Synchronicity is not a rare and mystical phenomenon. It is the natural language of quantum entanglement expressing itself in your daily life. The more you recognize and honor these synchronicities, the stronger your ability becomes to consciously navigate the network of connections that unites all minds. Breathe deeply now and mentally Give thanks for all the synchronicities you have already experienced, even those you didn't understand at the time. Leave a like if you have experienced a synchronicity that changed your life. The prison of linear time in connections. We live trapped in the illusion that mental and emotional connections operate within the same laws of time and space that govern physical objects. You believe you need to be physically close to someone to feel their energy, that you need spoken words to communicate deep thoughts, that the past is dead and the future inaccessible. But quantum entanglement shows us that these limitations are merely constructs of the conditioned mind. When two particles are entangled, a change in one affects the other instantly, no matter if they are separated by billions of light years. There is no delay, no transmission through space. The connection simply is, existing outside the limitations of space-time as we know it. Your mind operates on the same principle when it is truly entangled with another. This is why you can feel when something happens to a loved one on the other side of the world at the exact moment it occurs. This is why sometimes you have premonitory dreams about important people in your life. This is why certain connections seem to transcend physical death, continuing to manifest in dreams, synchronicities, and sensations. When you understand that your mental connections are not limited by linear time, you begin to access an extraordinary power of influence and perception. You can send healing to the past. You can prepare the energetic ground for future encounters. You can communicate with consciousnesses in dimensions that transcend our three-dimensional reality. But as long as you remain trapped in the mental prison of linear time, you will continue to limit your connections to what your five senses can perceive in the present physical moment. Visualize now your mental crystal floating in that ocean of light, but realize that this ocean exists outside of time. Past, present, and future are merely different angles of observation of the same eternal ocean. Your connection filaments extend not only through space, but through time, connecting you to past and future versions of the consciousnesses with which you are entangled. Comment: timeless. If you are ready to transcend the limitations of time in your connections. The density of fear-blocking connections. Fear is the densest frequency that exists in human experience, and when you operate from fear, your mental crystal becomes opaque, blocking both transmission and reception through the light filaments. Think about how you feel when you are afraid of being rejected, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of not being understood. In these moments, even when physically close to people you love, you feel profoundly alone and disconnected. This happens because fear literally densifies your energy, creating a vibrational barrier that prevents the natural flow of quantum entanglement. It's like trying to tune a radio station with static interference. The signal is there, but you can't access it through the noise of fear. Every time you choose to operate from fear instead of love, you are voluntarily disconnecting from the network of consciousness that could support, guide, and nourish you. The fear of intimacy prevents deep connections. The fear of vulnerability blocks the authenticity necessary for true entanglement. The fear of loss creates exactly the separation you fear experiencing. But here's the secret few understand. Fear only has power over your quantum connections when you believe you are alone. When you remember that you are a crystal in an ocean of light, eternally connected to other crystals, fear loses its dominion over you. How can you fear abandonment when you understand that separation is literally impossible at a quantum level? How can you fear rejection when you know that those who are truly entangled with you cannot reject you without rejecting a part of themselves? Breathe deeply now and feel where fear creates tension in your body. Perhaps it's a tightness in your chest, a constriction in your throat, a knot in your stomach. Visualize this tension dissolving like ice melting in the sun, and as it dissolves, see your mental crystal becoming more transparent, more radiant, allowing light to flow freely through all its connection filaments. If you are ready to dissolve fear and strengthen your connections, write light in the comments. Now I will share with you a 3-step method to consciously activate your quantum entanglement with other minds. First step, recognize the resonance. Before you can consciously work with your quantum connections, you first need to recognize when they are active. Start by paying attention to moments when you spontaneously think of someone, especially if it's someone you haven't thought about in a while. These thoughts are rarely random. They usually indicate that a connection filament is vibrating. When you feel a sudden emotion without apparent cause, pause and ask yourself, Is this mine, or am I picking up the frequency of someone I'm entangled with? Write down these experiences, creating a resonance journal. Over time, you will begin to identify patterns, recognizing which sensations correspond to which people in your network of connections. For example, you might discover that you always feel a specific warmth in your chest when your mother is thinking of you, or a slight pressure in your temple when your best friend needs help. Second step, purify the transmission. Once you recognize your connections, the next step is to purify your own transmission. Imagine that your mental crystal is constantly transmitting its frequency through all the light filaments. If you are anxious, you transmit anxiety. If you are at peace, you transmit peace. Dedicate a few minutes each morning to clear your frequency. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and visualize your mental crystal. See any density, any opacity being washed away by purifying golden light. Set the intention to transmit only the highest frequencies of love, peace, and harmony through your connections. This doesn't mean suppressing difficult emotions, but rather consciously processing them before transmitting them. Third step, direct the intention. The final and most powerful step is to learn to consciously direct your intention through the connection filaments. Choose someone with whom you feel a strong connection. Visualize the light filament connecting your crystal to theirs. Now consciously send a specific intention through that filament. It can be a message of love and sending of strength, a transmission of peace. Don't force it. Simply allow the intention to flow naturally through the connection that already exists. You will be surprised to discover how often the person receives your message, even if not consciously. They might call you, might feel inexplicably better, might have a dream about you. This is the power of consciously directed quantum entanglement. Place your hand over your heart now. Feel the rhythmic, constant, reliable pulse. This pulse is not just yours. It is the rhythm of the ocean of light in which all mental crystals float. Every beat sends waves through the filaments. Every breath is an opportunity to strengthen your connections. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold for 4 seconds, and as you exhale through your mouth, visualize a wave of golden light emanating from your mental crystal, traveling through all the filaments, carrying your highest frequency to everyone with whom you are connected. Your mind is not an island. You hear this, and a part of you resists because we have been conditioned to believe in separation, to value independence, to fear fusion. But we are more than we think. Every thought of yours creates waves in the ocean of consciousness. Every emotion resonates through the invisible filaments. Every intention has the power to affect minds miles away. Connected in the invisible web, we are not alone on our journey. We never were. The difference between living in the illusion of separation and living in the truth of entanglement is not about acquiring something new. It is about awakening to what has always existed. When you feel loneliness, it is because you have temporarily forgotten the light filaments. When you feel disconnection, it is because you have allowed fear to densify your crystal. When you feel that no one understands you, it is because you are not transmitting your true frequency. But now you know. Now you understand that every synchronicity is a confirmation of your connection. Every intuition about someone is quantum entanglement in action. Every moment of deep empathy is your crystal resonating with another in the ocean of light. Quantum entanglement between minds is not a theory awaiting proof, it is a reality awaiting recognition. Scientific experiments will continue to reveal what mystics have always known, that consciousness is not confined to the brain, that love transcends space and time, that we are all interconnected in a cosmic dance of light and information. But you don't need to wait for science to fully confirm what your experience already whispers. Every time you think of someone and that person contacts you, every time you feel what someone distant is experiencing, every time a synchronicity too perfect to be a coincidence happens, you are receiving direct confirmation that your mind is quantumly entangled with others. Imagine what the world would be like if everyone consciously lived this truth, if every person recognized that their thoughts and emotions affect others through quantum entanglement. If everyone purified their transmissions, sending only high frequencies through the light filaments, if we consciously directed intentions of healing, love, and peace through our connections, we would no longer be struggling with loneliness, depression, the feeling of lack of purpose. We would be consciously co-creating a reality where every mind supports and elevates the others, where the suffering of one is alleviated by the compassion of many, where the joy of one amplifies the frequency of all. But this transformation doesn't start out there. It starts here now with you recognizing and consciously activating your quantum connections. It starts with you choosing to operate from love instead of fear, from connection instead of separation, from unity instead of division. Your mental crystal is shining now, pulsating with a light that has always been there but that you may have forgotten. The filaments that connect you to others are vibrating, waiting for you to recognize them, honor them, utilize them consciously. You don't just manifest what you desire, you manifest who you are, and who you are is intrinsically entangled with all those with whom you share quantum connections. When you raise your frequency, you raise the frequency of the network. When you heal yourself, you send healing through the filaments. When you awaken to this truth, you help others awaken too. This is the power and responsibility of quantum spiritual entanglement. So now, in this sacred moment of recognition, make a choice. Choose to step out of the illusion of separation. Choose to trust your intuitions about others. Choose to honor synchronicities as messages from the quantum field. Choose to purify your transmissions. Choose to consciously direct love and healing through your connections. Choose to live as the entangled, connected, and powerful being that you truly are. If this message resonated with your mental crystal, if you felt the light filaments vibrating as you absorbed these words, then you are already activating your quantum connections. Leave a like now to amplify this frequency in the network. Comment a word that represents your highest intention so that other crystals in the ocean can resonate with your vibration. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the infinite depths of your quantum spiritual connections. And most importantly, carry this awareness into your life. The next time you think of someone, trust that there's a reason. The next time you feel an inexplicable emotion, explore if it's a resonance of your connections. The next time a synchronicity appears, honor it as the sacred communication it is. You are not alone, you have never been alone. You are a magnificent crystal in an infinite ocean of light, eternally connected, eternally loved, eternally entangled in the quantum dance of consciousness. And now that you know this, nothing will ever be the same. Your mind has awakened to its true entangled nature, and this awakening will send waves through all your connection filaments, awakening other crystals, illuminating other paths, revealing the truth that has always been here. We are one, we have always been one, and in that unity lies our infinite power to transform not only our individual lives, but all of shared reality. Entanglement is real, connections are real, and you are the conscious point of light that can change everything.